Okay, so good to be together. If you're in Aurelia, if you're here in the building, we're going to start with a little crowd interaction to kick off our series today. And here's what we're going to do. If you're here, sitting here in Barrie, in the middle section, in row 2 and 3, or you're in the middle section, row 2 and 3 in Aurelia, I want you to stand up. I'm not going to make you do anything embarrassing. Just stand up. Just stand up. Okay? Why don't you look at these people? You're not all standing. All right. Almost. All right. These people standing represent 8 to 10% of the room, okay? Everybody make sense? Roughly 8 to 10% in Aurelia the same. And there are 2 volunteers from this group. Is that right that I heard? Come on up if you're the 2 volunteers. Can we hear for them? You guys can have a seat. Thank you for this morning. You guys come on up. So we've got these 2 volunteers this morning who are on their way up. And they're almost here. Maybe we should have kept clapping, right? Okay, good. You can stand right here. Awesome. Okay, tell everybody who you are.
I'm Tamara.
Tamara, okay, great. And?
Sherry.
Sherry, okay, Tamara and Sherry. Now, Tamara, you are in the elite 8 to 10% of the room. But actually, the 2 of you represent 1% of the room. And you are going to be even the elite of the 1%. And because I'm going to give you some M&Ms, 10 M&Ms. So I know you're excited about this. M&M stands for what? Money manager, right? Money manager, because Scripture says that everything we have comes from God, and we're meant to steward it. We're meant to manage it. So she's the money manager. You've got more M&Ms than everybody in the room, which is amazing, right? It makes you feel great, right?
I love it.
I love it. All right, good. And okay, so great. Now, Sherry, I've got something for you, actually. I've got some M&Ms for you as well, okay? So that's awesome. How do you feel about your M&Ms, Sherry?
Embarrassed?
Embarrassed. An embarrassment of riches, right? Unbelievable. Now, Tamara, that doesn't feel good, right? That doesn't, because you look over and you go, man, like, how do I love Sherry more than I care about you? Like, how does that work? But I actually have something for you this morning, too. This is the pantry size M&M here, okay? Right, how does that feel?
Wonderful.
Wonderful, right? This right here is, if you're not aware, Instagram happening in real life. Right here, right now, isn't it? Now, we only have a limited budget here, so we're going to give each of you one of these packs to say thank you for this morning. Can we hear it for them? Yeah. It's interesting how we can have a little bit of fun with M&Ms, but it's so real to how things play out in real life. We, here in Canada, here in Simcoe County, I did all the research, took me a while, I really wanted to drill down on it. Roughly, we represent the top 8 to 10% in the world when it comes to our financial ability. Now, I understand that in the economy we're in, it doesn't always feel that way. You might be saying, listen, I'm 35, 40 years old. I'm just trying to own a house. I'll own a parking spot. I'll own anything. And you say it doesn't feel that way, but it is the truth. It is something that we have to recognize. And then what we saw up here was the top 1%, and we recognize some of us even live in the top 1% of the world. And what happens is it doesn't seem to matter where we're at financially. So often, we're looking at the person next to us and it doesn't feel like enough. Why doesn't it feel like enough? Why does it feel like no matter what we get, it never feels like enough? And maybe a deeper question is this: why don't you feel more content? Why do we spend so much of our lives feeling so discontent about what we have? When we look over at the person next to us, when we look at the person down the street, we make so much money, but it feels like, man, it doesn't matter how much money I make, it feels like I never have enough. Like I'm always short, like I'm never quite there. Or, man, it doesn't matter how much I make or what I purchase, there's always a friend, there's always a colleague who's doing better than I am. I mean, my brother-in-law, that guy drives me nuts. He's always talking about what car he drives and what cottage he bought. And for all of us, it doesn't matter where you're at financially, whether you're at your parents' place waiting, man, I can't wait till I have my first apartment, to, man, I've done really well, but I can always do better. There's part of us that says, man, it doesn't feel like enough, and we don't really feel content. That's what I want to talk about in this series. I want to talk about our finances in this series. I want to talk about money in this series. I want to talk about what does it mean to actually find more contentment in your life? What does it mean to actually find more meaning in your life, in your finances? What does it mean to find more freedom in your finances? What would it mean to be the generous person you actually want to be? And I want to let you know throughout this series, none of this series is about shame. None of this series is about guilt. None of this series is about forcing anybody to do anything. And the truth is, we've all made financial decisions in our past that we regret, some of which we're reaping the consequences of even today. We all have things that we wish we were doing differently, and we all have places where we feel like we don't measure up. But the goal at the end of this series would be for you to understand what contentment and meaning really mean. Now, Jesus talked about money all the time. And when Jesus talked about money, he talked often about the kingdom of God. This idea of like, man, when it comes to our resources, we want to be bringing heaven to earth. And he's talking about this in Matthew chapter 6. And he talks about money, and he says this. He says, don't store up treasures here on earth where moths eat them and rust destroy them, and where thieves break in and steal. He's saying, hey, listen, when it comes to your financial resources, don't invest in the things that waste away. Don't invest in the things that end up kind of being destroyed. Invest in the things that really matter, that really make a difference. But so often we get caught up in it, don't we? We want to get this electronic. We need to get this car. We want to get this home. And we continue to look at the person next to us. And it's worse now than it ever was before. And if you feel that way, you're 100% right. There's a guy named Morgan Housel who wrote a book called The Psychology of Money. Anybody read that book, Psychology of Money? If you haven't read it, it's a New York Times bestseller, fantastic book. He has a book now called The Art of Spending Money. And he realized this. He said, man, something has changed in our culture, and it's this. On one hand, the richest are making more, and those with the lowest income are making less. That's not news to you. You hear it on the news all the time. There is a growing disparity in our culture. But at the same time, in 2010, as that was happening, something else happened. We all got on social media. And all of a sudden, not only is there a gap, but we can see it. I would sum it up this way. There's a growing wealth gap, and constant exposure to how others live have created a contentment and comparison crisis in our culture. Right? You sit on your couch, eating your cereal, watching your Netflix, scrolling on your phone, looking at Kim Kardashian's vacation, and thinking, man, that looks amazing. I wish I was on a vacation like that. How come she gets to go on that vacation? And you know what Kim Kardashian is doing by the pool? She's on her phone looking at someone else's vacation, wondering, why can't I have a vacation like that? And that person is doing the same. And it's the same when it comes to where you live, same comes to the car you drive, same comes to the electronics you have in your life, same comes to the clothes you wear. There's a constant comparison going on all the time. And as a result, we struggle with contentment. And so what do? We start to see what other people have, and we say, man, I deserve that. If they deserve it, I deserve it. If Drake has it, I should have it, right? If Mr. Beast has it, I should have it. But it's also, man, I see this person who I know in my life. That person I went to university with, if they have it, I should have it. My neighbor has this. If they have it, I should have it. And I deserve it. And that's how you create a culture where everybody gets over their heads in debt. Because if I deserve it and I don't have the money for it, I'm going to leverage what I can to get it. Morgan Housel says this. He says, spending money to show people how much money you have is the fastest way to have less money. But we do it. We get caught in what I call the consumption cycle. Right? It's that consumption cycle. You get your first place, your first apartment, and you're so excited, and you get your aunt's couch and it's 50 years old and you don't care because it's yours. And she gives you money to take it. She says, whatever's in the cushions, you can have it. And then after a while, you're online and you see, oh, your friend's got that couch. And so what do? You go to IKEA and you get yourself a new couch. And you and your spouse have 8 fights putting it together with one Allen key. But it's yours. And then what? You think, man, but we want to be real adulting. We want to be real adults. And what is a real adult? A real adult is someone who owns a sectional that their kids are not allowed to sit on, right? That's what that is. And we got to one up one more time. We got to one up. And we do it with everything. We do it with clothes. We do it with electronics. We do it with stuff. We do it with vacation homes. We do it. It doesn't matter who you are, and it doesn't matter how much you have. We get caught up in the consumption cycle. And here's the problem. The problem is that your goalpost keeps moving. It never stops moving. It's designed that way. So what's Jesus saying when he says, don't store up treasures here on earth, where moth and rust destroy? Because the minute you get that thing you want, you're going to want something else. And the minute you get that thing you want something else. And I want you to be free of that. I want you to be free of the demand that never, ever, ever stops. So what do you do instead? He says this, instead, store your treasures in heaven where moths and rust cannot destroy and thieves cannot destroy, and thieves do not break in and steal. Invest in the things that really have eternal impact. Invest in the things that make a real difference. Invest in the things that will mean something into eternity. Man, when it comes to where you leverage your finances, look at the things that really last. Because at the end of the day, that huge walk-in closet you have is just going down the street to the thrift store one day. But the idea that you can invest in life change in people's lives, that you can invest in the lives of your kids, that you can invest in the life of your relationship with your spouse, these are the things that reverberate into heaven. What are you actually investing in? And then he says this, wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will be also. And now he kind of gets to the crux of the whole thing. Where your treasure is, where you invest your money, that's where your heart is going to go. See, Jesus understands, and Jesus sees money as the number one competitor for your heart. And he knows that your heart will follow your money. If I gave you $100,000 here today, which I'm not doing, just M&Ms today. But if I gave you $100,000 and you said, man, you know what I'm going to do with that $100,000? I'm going to get my dream car. I'm willing to bet that my 16-year-old who just got his license, you're not going to let him test drive it for you here in the parking lot. Because, man, you've invested that money in it. You're going to polish it. You're going to take care of it. That is where your heart will be. If you took that same $100,000 and you donated it to an orphanage in a country that really needs it, what would you be doing? You'd be calling them to see how it's going. You'd be watching their social media online to see what's happening. You'd be checking in on them. You'd be praying for them more than you'd be praying for your Lamborghini, I promise. See, your money is the steering wheel for your heart. That's why it's the number one thing I believe that you can actually, we're going to talk about this more in this series, that you can actually leverage to grow spiritually. And then Jesus goes on to explain it more. He says this, your eye is like a lamp that provides light for your body. Now, why is he talking about eyes and lamps and lights? This is why. Because in the time when Jesus is teaching this, people believed your eyes were the window to your soul. So if you had light in your eyes, it meant you were a generous person. You were a person who looked at the world through the lens of abundance. That's how you saw the world. If you had dark eyes, you were a greedy person. You had a scarcity mentality. You were super cheap. That was dark eyes. Dark eyes versus light eyes. And so he's saying, your eye is like a lamp that provides light to your whole body. When your eye is healthy, your whole body is filled with light. But when your eye is unhealthy, your whole body is filled with darkness. And then he says this, and if the light you think you have is actually darkness, how deep that darkness is. Here's a warning. If he says, hey, it's one thing to be generous. It's one thing to be selfish. It's one thing to tell people you're generous and then be selfish. That's the most dangerous of things. To tell people I'm a generous person, to tell people I have an abundance mentality, to tell people I'm excited to invest in the things of the kingdom and actually not do it in the background, how deep that darkness really is, he says. See, what Jesus is getting at here is how you handle your money starts to dictate how you see the world. The more you see the world through the more you're selfish with your finances, the more you see the world as having a scarcity mentality, the less generous you are. That's the way you start to see the world. That's the way you start to see your relationships with your friends and your kids and your family. And how you handle your money also dictates how you see God. If you say, man, God, I'm not going to trust you with any of my finances. This is all for me to decide. I need to control things. I'm not going to pray about things. I'm going to try to earn enough money so I don't have these problems anymore. I don't need to trust in you, God. What I need is more money. Because if I had more money, then my life would be more in control. And Jesus is saying, man, I think if you trusted me, I think if you opened your Bible, your life would be more in control because it would be in my control. How you handle your money dictates how you see God. And this happens to us all the time. And the reason is because you have an internal money story. You do. What is your internal money story? I want you to think about this. It usually comes from your childhood, how you were brought up, and you can probably put together what it was. My dad grew up in rural Ontario. His mom immigrated from Northern Ireland. They tried to start a farm together, their family. Very little income. My dad had two outfits, one for school and church and one for work at home. Those were his two outfits. When he played soccer with his friends, they had soccer shoes. He had his dad's old Sunday shoes. That's what he wore. And so my dad knows how to make a dollar go a long way. My dad, you could argue, has a scarcity mentality when it comes to funds, except in his family, they were incredibly generous and involved in their church. So I grew up and I thought, man, my dad is so generous to the church. And I also saw, man, it's hard to get your allowance raised around here. But doesn't that start to shape me? Like I'm lying to myself if I said that doesn't shape me. I'm lying to myself if I said that hasn't impacted how I see the world. How you handle money impacts how you see the world. How you handle money impacts how you see God. How you handle money, think about this, for some of you, dictates how your kids see the world and how your kids see God. And how you talk about money in front of your kids dictates how they see the world around them. So what's your money story? How do you see money? Let me give some examples of what I'm talking about. Scarcity or abundance. How do you see it? Security, man, I need money to feel secure. If I just have enough money, then I'll feel secure. Or trust. I trust God's going to show up. I trust God's going to be here for me. Is it ownership? Hey, this money that I have, I own it. This is mine. It's no one else's. Or is it stewardship? This is God's money and I'm just here to manage it well. Is it status? The possessions that I have are about status in my life, or is it service? Man, my finances are here to serve my family, to serve my kids, to serve the people around me. How do you see money? Because how you see money dictates how you see the world, and it ultimately dictates how you see God. I would argue if you want to diagnose where you're at with God, your credit card bill is a pretty good place to start. Because it gives you a pretty good indication of what you trust in, what you value, where your heart is. And then he says this, no one can serve two masters, for you will hate one and love the other. You'll be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. This translation for money actually is better translated mammon, who was like a god of the time. like an idol of the time, and mammon was the idol of greed and the idol of like more, and the idol of I'm going to do whatever it takes to get mine. And Jesus is saying, listen, you can't serve God and serve mammon at the same time. It's just impossible to do. You can't say, man, I love God, my heart, whenever I say, hey, if I could say to this whole room, how many of you have a sin you want to confess? And you would say, oh yeah, we all have sin we need to confess. I say, what is your confession? What do you think is the percentage of people in this room who would say greed? It's probably 0. 1%. So many of us don't think about this. We don't think about, man, am I caught up in a consumption-based life? Because we've always got someone else to look at who's got more than we have. It's not me who struggles with greed. It's Kim Kardashian. She's the one. Look at her Instagram profile. He's saying, man, if you're going to spend your life consuming, you can't serve me and serve mammon at the same time. If you're going to spend your life consuming, you're going to be consumed. That's what this is really all about. That a consumption-first life leaves you consumed. I have been preaching this for years. It is 100% true. It is so interesting to me to see how easily it is for us to get caught up in this, and how easy it is for me to get caught up in this. For me to feel like, no, I'm on top of this, and then I see the next shiny thing. And I go, oh man, that would be nice. I've confessed my countertop addiction here before. But you see that kitchen, it's like, I'm good with my kitchen countertop. And then what? I see another countertop. And I go, oh man, wouldn't that be nice? But you know what happens, right? Well, you can't put that countertop on a crappy set of cabinets. And you can't put those cabinets on a crappy floor. And you can't put in that crappy floor without what? New molding. Because at the end of the day, we'll get it out of the house when we sell it. Or whatever I need to do to tell myself to keep consuming. And the interesting thing is, who are we comparing to? This to me is the most interesting thing. We compare to people all the time, but we only compare the money part, right? So we look at Elon Musk or we look at Jeff Bezos and we look at those people and go, oh, wow. But we're only looking at the money part of their life because we're thinking consumption. But we're not looking at their whole life, are we? You know that the top 10 richest people in the world combined have 13 divorces between them. Jimmy Carr, anybody follow Jimmy Carr? He's like a comedian, Jimmy Carr. He's not the cleanest comedian, I'll be honest. But he says this. He says, everyone is jealous of what you've got. No one is jealous of how you got it. People look at his wealth and think, oh man, I want that. And he's like, you don't know the road I took. You don't know the sacrifice I made. My relationship with my spouse or my relationship with my kids. You don't know anything about me. All you see is my highlight reel. Because isn't that what we're comparing to every single day? And then Jesus says this. He says, that's why I tell you, guys, don't worry about everyday life. And then you can read this for yourself. Jesus gets into it like it's all poetic all of a sudden. He's like, well, look at the birds of the field. They don't worry, right? They're not comparing Instagram profiles of who has the nicest nest. They're not worried about what seed's going to be on the ground. They know I'm going to provide. They're chill, the birds. He says, look at the lilies of the field. They're better dressed and more beautiful than King Solomon, he talks about, the wisest king in his beautiful robes. He's like, what are you worried about? And he says this, and if God cares so wonderfully for wildflowers that are here today and thrown into the fire tomorrow, he will certainly care for you. Why do you have so little, and then this is interesting, he doesn't say, why do you have so little contentment? He doesn't say, why do you have so little patience? He doesn't say, why do you have so little money or possessions or anything like that? He says, why do you have so little faith? Where is your trust that I'm enough? Where is your trust that I will give you enough? Now, here's the question. How much is enough? How much is enough? See, contentment isn't about how much you have. It's about who defines enough. Who defines what is enough in your life? For many of us, the world around us is defining for us what's enough. We believe what the world tells us about enough. And you'll never have enough if that's the way you run your life. And you'll never be enough. But what does God say about what is enough? What does God say about what is enough for you? What does God say? What do you say about your life and what is enough? This is an important question. Morgan Housel says this. He says, you know what? The hardest financial skill is getting the goalpost to stop moving. The hardest financial skill is to say, this is enough. I have decided what enough is. I don't need any more than this. I don't need 100 outfits. This car is enough. Renting is enough. But what Jesus is saying, what if trusting me to define what is enough for you? Do you trust that I will always be enough? That I will always provide? He says this, so don't worry about these things, saying, what will we eat, or what will we drink, or what will we wear? These things dominate the thoughts of unbelievers, but your heavenly Father already knows all your needs. He already knows. See, contentment isn't found in having more. It's found in trusting that God is enough. That he's enough, and he'll provide enough. And then he says this, seek the kingdom of God above all else and live righteously, and he will give you everything you need. And now he's back to, man, where are you investing? What is your treasure? Are you investing in things of the kingdom? Are you investing in relationship? Are you investing in life change? Are you investing in the things that really matter? Seeing people baptized, seeing people find Jesus, investing in your kids that you might build a relationship with them, that they might find Jesus, investing in a relationship with Jesus yourself. Man, these are the things that moth won't destroy and rust can't destroy and are not going away. Nobody will ever take my relationship with Jesus to the thrift store. That's never happening. That's never happening. It doesn't matter how little I have. You cannot take that away from me. And that is enough. And that's what I want my kids to have. Right? More than the latest cell phone and a great job and a good car and a nice house and all the stuff that's going to go away. What's he saying? He's saying, listen, Jeff, a consumption first life leaves you consumed, but a kingdom first life is what leaves you content. Seeking the things of God. Contentment isn't found in having more. It's found in trusting that God is enough. That God is enough for you and for me. I'm super passionate about this topic, and here's why. I want to share with you why. I've been at this church for 17 years. And a number of years I became the exec director, and that meant that I got the privilege of overseeing the finances. And so I knew and I know what people give financially in this church. And it was the first time I'd ever been exposed to that. And here's the number one thing I learned. When I looked at the people, some people who were just incredibly generous, this is what I learned. There was a strong correlation between those people and the people who you look to and go, man, I would like to be like them. And this is the thing that surprised me. I started to go to their homes to visit them sometimes, just for church stuff. And these people weren't living in mansions. And these people weren't driving sports cars. These people were living in modest homes with modest means. And they're incredibly generous people. And I was like, man, when people in our church say, I want to be like so-and-so, this is like one of the big common denominators. That their people have decided, listen, I only need so much to live. There is a line that God has called me to that is enough. And beyond that, I have the margin to invest in kingdom things. I have the margin to make a difference in people's lives. And I've had the opportunity to work at a church where everybody lived in those mansions. And I've had the opportunity to serve at churches where people had nothing. And I've had the opportunity to serve in this church. And what I've learned is the people who understand what is enough and what a life of generosity is are the people that you want to be like. I know that. I'm not saying that's easy. Not at all. But it's true. I don't get paid to tell you the easy thing. I get paid to tell you the true thing. Let me ask you this question. If you lived on a deserted island where no one could see you, how would you live? If you knew no one could see you, there's nobody compared to, there's nobody around, just you on a deserted island, how would you live? You might say, oh, well, I'd have a mansion with 10 rooms. Would you? You got to clean that. It's just you on the island. You say, oh, yeah, actually, that's true. How many beds can I sleep in? Like one bed? I need one room. What would you eat? Well, oh my gosh, I would eat this and that. But you know what would happen. Eventually, it's going to boil down to what? Kind of 5 meals that you'd eat most of the time. What kind of car would you drive if nobody cared and nobody could see? How much would it matter? It's an interesting question, isn't it? It starts to get down to what really, truly is enough. I've got a bit of an exercise for the brave people here if you want to do that this week. And it's this. I want you to make, this is like I taught grade 10 business a long time ago. So this is as simple as, this is grade 10 business right here. What are your needs and what are your wants? Now, I want you to be careful. You're going to list your needs and you're going to list your wants, but be careful because our culture is really good at marketing your wants as needs, right? So you got to be really careful. Right? Maybe you would say, well, the internet is a need, but ad-free Spotify, that's a want, people, okay? And if you said, man, what do I actually need? Because it says what? My God will supply all of your needs. What do I actually need? This, to me, this is a very freeing exercise. Because you'll realize that, man, what do I really need? I need like a roof over my head. And honestly, I don't need to own that roof. If I had a roof over my head and I could rent that roof, that's also great. But sometimes we get caught up in the lie that, oh, I got to own that roof, and we over leverage ourselves. And then when we get in that situation, we get more house than we can afford because, we need a big kitchen because we entertain, but how often have you had anybody over? Be careful. If you boiled it down to your basic needs, what are they? And for many of you, if you said, man, if that's really all I needed and all the wants went away, man, I'd be okay. And then the question becomes, man, if that's true and you had all of that margin left, what could you do with it? What could you do in your life? How could you invest it in kingdom things in your family? How could you invest it in kingdom things with your friends? How could you invest it in the work of God? What could you see? And then what I want you to do is make a list. This is 2-part homework, okay? This is enough. This is enough list. And it can be like, hey, this is enough. I am drawing the line God is enough. I hope you heard that today. But this is an exercise for you to just look at, okay, what's actually enough for me? And for maybe it's enough for you, it's an enough income. This is enough income for me. I'm beyond this is all margin. This is all opportunity to make a difference. This is all an opportunity to do the things that really matter, that rust and moth cannot destroy. I cannot tell you the freedom that comes from an exercise like this. And this comes from a recovering countertop addict, right? That when it doesn't really matter how nice my couch is. It doesn't really matter how nice your couch is. You can say it's an investment all you want. It's not, right? I remember helping a friend move, And this is what he said to me, man, we had to sell this house. And he said, but this couch is the problem. And I said, well, what's the problem with the couch? He's like, well, I don't know what to do with it. I'm still making payments on it. It doesn't fit in the next house. But it was an investment. This is our forever couch. We tell ourselves so many stories to justify spending money. So this is installment 1, and we really want to help you. And there's something I am really excited about that I want you to go and check out, and it's this. If you go to connexuschurch.com/sweetspot, we have put so many great resources, podcasts, books there, not just Christian books, like other stuff, all kinds of stuff, the best of stuff. The podcast links to direct episodes, books that you can read, and there is actually a 15-day journey that starts tomorrow. If you want to go on it with us, short devotionals readings, a 15-day journey to more contentment and generosity in your life. And I dare you to take it. Because some of you need daring to move. I dare you to take it. I dare you to come on the journey and find more freedom and more contentment and the generosity in your life you've always wanted to have. Because I want you to find the place where it's enough, and the place where you can find freedom, and the place where you can be generous in the way that you want to be, because that is your sweet spot. And I want to help you find it. The other thing is, I know that there are people here today that would say, Jeff, I don't even know where to begin. You don't know like where my credit card debt is at. You don't know, like I am overwhelmed. I don't have enough to make ends meet. I can't find extra funds. I don't know where to begin. And I know exactly how you feel. I'm going to share a bit of our story. We have been there. And we're offering our financial learning experience, an online and an in-person experience, and the dates are all there on that site. I want you to register for that. It's a 90-minute workshop. We've had over 1,000 people do it. Whether you feel like you have lots of money or you feel like you struggle financially, it will help you. I am a huge proponent of this. This radically changed my life. I worked here, and financially, we were not in a good place. And when this came to our church, 90 minutes changed our lives. And I'm going to share a bit of that story later on in the series. But man, there is freedom. If you're here and you're like, I struggle, I'm underwater financially, we made poor decisions, my business went upside down, we took on too much house, the credit card debt we're paying, I've been paying off my TV for 30 years or whatever it is. We want to help you. We want to help you find your sweet spot. But even more, I want you to find the God that's enough. I want you to find the God that's enough. And if you are a teenager or a young adult here, one of the things I'm so proud of at our church is that there are people your age who we've taken on this journey who now are young families with young kids. And I see how financially free they are because they took this journey at your age. Don't miss it. Join the journey. Doesn't matter how much you feel you have or don't have. There is a place where you can find your sweet spot. And God really wants to work in your life there. So let me pray. God, we come to you today. And God, I pray for those who are here today that feel like, man, I'm really upside down financially and I don't know where to start. And the people who are here who think like, man, I'm 30, I'm 35, I'm never going to own a home. My career isn't where it should be because my friend is here and my cousin is there and whatever. And for those who are here today who are trusting in their wealth, thinking that is giving them control of their life and are under the illusion that that's true, wherever we're at, God, remind us that the lesson is the same, that you are enough, that you are enough, that you are enough. And if you are all we had, you are all we need. I pray this in your name.